Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen Buerta, for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
Does it go like symbiotic or does it compete with regular recyclables?
That's a very good question. So we have a partnership with a group that's focused on the solid waste, right? So it can go symbiotic in that regards, and when they have their own waste to energy facilities. But if they don't have a waste to energy facilities identified at that time or stood up, the e-waste facility will go first because it takes 12 to 18 months for them to deploy that technology. For us, it takes 4 to 6 months. And then we can start making an impact in the communities that we want to service. And the different type of recyclable assets or commodities, believe it or not, there's more e-waste in the waste stream than any other waste in the world. There was a UN report that was just dated, was just performed and completed on March the 24th of this year. And it's just basically spoke about the e-waste challenges. It's a tsunami of our waste stream. I mean, here you talk about from 2024, the e-waste industry is like $112 billion problem. In less than 6 years, Serene and Tanya, the e-waste industry is over $200 billion problem. And in the e-waste, it's just not, as we stated earlier in our conversation, it wasn't just about the computers and TVs and cell phones that our consumers use every day. The e-waste industry will be solar panels, which is part of the e-waste family. And then when you think about as we push in our country, Shireen, I don't know about in South Africa, we're pushing electronic vehicles. So they have batteries, EVBs, electric vehicle batteries. And now that's a problem. But it's part of the e-waste stream, so we got to make sure we collect it, deploy it, and send it downstream to get it recycled properly. So we have challenges in front of us, but I think our business model, which I won't give up so much of it, but what I will say is that we're here for the challenge.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And I mean, I agree with you. I think over the years, there's about 5 cell phones alone, just lying around the house, old cell phones from, Timbuktu when I was a little girl, because what do? If it's broken, you can't resell it. It's just going to lie there. So interesting. And thank you very much for answering all our questions. But before we continue, I just want to jump in here with a little bit of a buzzsprout blurb. So, Friends from Wild Places is a place to share stories from other business owners and professionals, a safe space to show support for other businesses all over the world, in fact. We feature nonprofits every month to try and make a difference and give a helpline to someone in need. Do you have a message you want to share with the world? Or maybe you just think it'll be fun to have your own talk show. Podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. To start your own podcast, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you, and it does help support the show. The team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. So back to you, Philippe. I want to know, what made you decide to rather run your own business than work for someone else doing a very similar thing?
That's a very good question. So going back to the questions about choices. So the choices you make will dictate the life that you live. I learned during my military career, it benefited me most of the time. I'm just not a yes person. So when you're in a structure, you don't have the ability to share your vision. You can't carry your vision. You're just in this box. You check the box every day, and this is the parameters and the structure that's been put in place for you as your job. And that's nothing wrong with it. There are folks that need to just do that. And that's great for them. We need that kind of folks in our society. But I've always been a visionary. I've always been a person that work beyond the borders, or I just never fit in the box. I'm not a guy gonna put a round peg in a round hole. That's the structure. I'm a guy gonna test the boundaries every sort of the way. So, but that's one. But the most reason why I became an entrepreneur all these years, this is over 23 years now, I know I can be more impactful in people's lives. And I can share my story and my vision and maybe help them change their lives. Because from humble beginnings, you work hard, you work as hard. You know, I mean, you may see in my bio that, I went to Harvard's executive management course. I think I belonged there. I was scared, I was afraid. But the first course I took was having difficult conversations. And let me tell you something, it shaped my journey. Because when I walked in those walls, in those halls, I knew I belonged. So you got to, again, there's certain points in your journey in your life, you know you belong. So becoming, not being a worker or not working in a job every day, it's not I could have made $200,000 or $300,000 a year. You got to know what's important to you. Is it the money or is the passion of making an impact? So the money does not drive me here. It's making an impact in communities and people's lives. And this model allows some transferable skills that folks can work in other organizations, which my model has lent already. It's shown to be true. And these folks are working in Fortune 500 companies because of my workforce model. Because we've done the proper screening, the proper training. And they know if they come through our platform, our model, they know they're well trained. And that it's about changing mindsets. It's hard to change a mindset in a job. Like when doing my training model, I do have empowerment in academies. And one of the books I use is Who Moved My Cheese? So for me, it's about different characters in our life, who we really are. But those things you can translate not in your workplace, but also in your home life. It helps you change your mind, give you some different thoughts, give you an impact in different directions. So that's who I really am. And that's why I've never taken on a job since I left the military. I've always been an entrepreneur. And I love it.
I want to just dive a little bit deeper on that, Felipe. So my question is, so like in the US right now, I'm going to speak specifically for Florida. I'm confident. I was watching some segments last evening that the housing market, right? The housing market is just kind of out of control. Rents are out of control. Like, people are being like, they can't even support their own apartments. Okay. Especially like in the Miami area. So my question is, when people that are listening to your podcast and your story, maybe they have a vision of something greater, bigger, whatever, but they're here, right? So from a monetary, like, what would be some like golden nuggets to get from where they currently are to that vision where they want to be, but also they have to put, bread and butter on the table, so to speak. So what would you recommend when when we know when the successes come, right? That's great. That's abundance. And we know we're at, but what do you do to be successful in that interim period?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing question you asked, Tanya, because if you're married and you have a spouse, that means you have some sort of support system. You have a support system. Then you have to talk to your spouse, man or woman, doesn't matter, because they're great women entrepreneurs. I mean, not good, great. I'm a fan of a lot of them. So my whole point of all is they're going to say, listen, this is the risk we can take on right now. And be honest. I'm going to give you this window. I'm going to give you this time frame to fulfill your vision. Because if you never do it, you're going to always regret it. There's a lot of great ideas in the graveyard. And this is your industry, Tanya. You bury a lot of great folks that never fulfill their dreams. So that's one. And I'll use that first, and I'm going to go second, and I'm going to go to another piece shortly. But if they have that time frame, then they can start sharing their vision and building it. Then what they need to do is make sure they work with a mentor in the industry they're looking for. Make sure they find someone. If they don't know how to do that, start with your local small business or your enterprise zone business organizations or empowerment organizations, or maybe through your church. I know there's a lot of great relationships in churches. So if you go to a church, if you don't, but at least go to those business councils. Start getting involved. Start learning. Do less talking and do more learning. Just learn, and start small. Just start building and learn about what you can deal with, learning your risk tolerance, learning your capacity, learning about your product. Is it really good for this time frame or for this community? Because business is always local. I always tell folks that whenever you open your business, it's local. It may have a global reach, but whenever you open your doors, it's local to that community. So you just got to learn how to develop your business from the micro level to the macro level and put all those building blocks in between. Put a good infrastructure in place. What Shireen does is bookkeeping and finance. You better have a good accounting system. You need a good lawyer. You need to have, but your product, if you have all those infrastructure things in place first, then your product will support it, even through bad times. And we'll talk about that later on. But again, a good infrastructure and a great product will sustain you through all your good and bad times. So to your point, that's a person who has a spouse. If a person who's single, it's going to be the grind. If you believe it in enough, you're going to work 8 hours a day, and you're going to put the next 8 hours into starting and building your business. You're going to work on and look at all the afternoon, evening events I could be a part of and start working in that way. You got to feed yourself, and you got to make sure you take care of your bills. Because again, then you're going to add additional stress, which you don't want, because business alone is stressful enough. So you need to make sure those basic needs are met while you're building your company. So you got to have a great support system. You have to know you have that along the way. So that would be my recommendation, Tanya, in that how to approach a startup business.
We're going to include that in the book, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Want you to.
I like that. I really do. It also comes from that saying with you can't make money without having money to begin with, which is kind of true. It is kind of true. You do need some kind of financial support to get your own business going. And that's
yes, you do.
Really the truth. Philippe, can I ask you, what are one of the biggest struggles that you had to face on your journey? And how did you overcome it?
I think I've been waiting for this question all morning long for our podcast. And I tell you why, we're going to spend a little bit of time here, because I think so often, people see you at this, to Tanya's point, at the top, but everything in between to get here was very tough. So my first company, kind of give you a little background, IITS, Intelligent Information Technology Systems and Solutions. It was a business model. I made a lot of money. But the truth of the matter, I hated the business. I hated what it did to me as a person, or what I allowed it to do to me as a person. Because nobody can do nothing more than you allowed to do. Go back to the choices. So I made some choices that did not align with my moral compass or my person. So when I got into the e-waste model, I finally found a good partner who's a radiologist, and I will give him a shout out. His name is Luther Wells. We became brothers. So we came at a time that, okay, I never forget it like it was just at Shireen and Tanya. It's a funny story. We was at Walmart and was getting some cash and getting a check in for the company. And I said, I'm still doing IITS. And he says, I said, we got to get into this electronic waste business. And he used the word, he said, are you serious? What is electronic waste? To your original question, what are we doing? So I said, we got to get ahead of the time here. And at that time, I think he thought I was really crazy. But it was a vision that God had given me, because it's not Felipe. He prepared me for this moment of putting all the logistics, working in policy at the Pentagon, learn how to do financial management through different organizations, and have my first company. I knew my tolerance level. I learned a lot of things in those first 8 years, what I didn't want to do and could do. So I had a partner. So go back to Tanya's question. You may want to just also find a partner that during your journey that will believe, because you can't do it alone. That's one thing about business. Depending where you want to go, but you still need a partner. You need someone to support you. So Luther Wells and I, we got into e-waste tech. And what we did, we basically bootstrapped it. And that's the good news. We have no bank loans, and that's the good news again. So we're very proud to say that. So we bootstrapped in such a way that allowed us to start the model, to Tanya's point, at a micro level. Start a facility, got the doors open, and a community that needed the help. And our timing was perfect. So we got the doors open. We proved that our model worked. We got a contract. Did well for 3 years. But because the industry is so new, now we get into the tough conversation, Shireen and Tanya. Because the industry is so new, although I was getting contracts, and they always say you need contracts to get collateral or get capital, I could not get capital. And it was so tough, I had to close my doors in 2018. I had to restructure all from the beginning. So let me tell you, tough times. I had all type of liabilities. I was going to lose my house. I was forced to sell it. And I had a nice home. I mean, you talking about, if I was forced to live in the image, oh my God, I had it all. 5 bedrooms, all 4.5 baths, and 6,000 square feet of house. I was living the dream. It was nothing new to me, so that was a good thing. It wasn't the first time I became a millionaire. It wasn't okay. But it was my image and my pride that kept me in the fight as long as I did. So when I really lost all the financing piece, yes, I had to start all over again. What I lost more so was myself. So you got to make sure you cannot lose yourself in something when it calls business, because it's not personal. Then I made it personal because it affected me personally. So I had to start all over again. So there are some folks along my journey, Shireen and Tanya, believed in me. I'll go to a guy named Joseph Sakala. What he's doing right now, Shireen and Tanya, him and I are visionaries. He is starting, and you can go online, look at called the DreamX, or Dream Exchange, called DreamX in short for the website. DreamX is the first minority-owned stock exchange in the United States in its 230-year industry ever. He's creating that. So he believed in me, and we've been knowing each other for years. We both military folks, and we both come from the background of special ops and all those things. He believed in me. He had a partner named Tom Henrik and Thomas. So while he's building his model, he sent me a guy named Artie Martin. And my lowest point, I didn't have $2 to my name. He sent me a guy to invest in me to see where my mind, he changed my mind, he changed my life. Artie Martin changed my life on a book of basically 9 admin principles. And it changed my life, how I looked at business. So went on. We got certified to be a part of the Dream Exchange. He thought his organization would be certified by the House of Representatives in the United States. But by that time, while he was trying to get the Main Street Growth Act passed, he had a gentleman named Tom that became one of my best friends, and Gus Tucker. And while these guys helped me put everything in place, there was a young lady who works for me, my best friend is Sylvia Joseph. I had some folks that just believe in me. They know I ain't had no money, but they believed in me. So during that time frame, COVID showed up in the United States, right, and all over the world. So Tom, the gentleman who had right in the Thanksgiving of 2022, he was ready to change my life. He had found the capital to invest in my company, to get started. In December 22nd, he died from COVID. So the world, it was a setback for him and his family. I could have took it personally and said, God, why me? But I said, God is showing me something. So his best friend, Joe, as I stated, they were business partners. And I have other people that's on my back now. They want to get this going and load through the wells and put this money in. And they want to see Star getting some return from it, because he's an investor more than a business partner in this venture. So I understood where everyone was. But thank be to God, I had a group called K&L Gates. That was one of the largest lobbying groups in the world. They believed in me. They put the best team around me to help me carry out this vision. Then I have folks like the Bob Mills and the other folks. I can go George Ramones and David Whites and Janice Davises and all in the world that's been a part of women's journey from the beginning, especially Janice and Luther. She's my attorney. I just got to give them shout outs because when you have nothing and you have not one dime to pay them, but they believed in this model so much, they turn it around. And then through my hard work, I evolved. The business evolved. And it became a better product. So everything has its time and season. So now in the day, through my partnership with M2M Ventures, we're ready to take on the world. We have just won a major contract I shared with Tanya in West Virginia. I will at least say that. I won't go into the county. We won a project in West Virginia. We have developed great partnerships in the state of Maryland. We're ready to go internationally, got opportunities in Africa and South America. So the model is great. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And believe it or not, Shireen, we're having conversations in South Africa as well, believe it or not, through my relationship with M2M Ventures. So we're going to touch the globe. The model is going to touch the globe. But you just have to have folks believe in you. And I talked about earlier in the conversation about the infrastructure and a good product. I just had the infrastructure sustain me. I had a great product that people could continue to believe in. And like Joy and myself, we were just 10 years ahead of our time. And I just believe I was ahead of my time. And now it's the right time. So people can invest in something that's bigger than them. It is forced upon them. But just know that I lost it all. But you know, God first is my source that allowed me to review, get my life back in order. There was 4 books I like to share with you all. So if you need them, just I'll share them with you. The first one is Power of Humility, Total Forgiveness, Lead Like Jesus, and Call to Discipleship. In the book of Call to Discipleship, it was 4 words, all I needed after I read it. It was cheap grace or costly grace. I know us in the world at times we live in cheap grace. I mean, cheap grace when we say we're all a part of the world, we're living for this image, and we all do, although we go to church, but the church is not really in us. You will know when you sacrifice everything, when you really need him, that God is really your best source. And the cost of grace, that's why I live by it every day. And don't have to apologize when you love God as much as you do. They just have to know that's part of your moral compass. They just know it's part of your spiritual compass. Everybody don't have to serve him, that's okay. But you just have to know the person who I am, and I don't apologize for that for anyone. Because through all of this, he's the one that brought me through it all. And he sent the right people along my journey to help me carry this vision out. So that's my story. So that's where we are.
Amazing, amazing, Felipe. I'm just so honored that we are here today, celebrate you on your birthday, which is, out of all the days, here we are on your birthday, sharing your journey, getting your message out to whoever may need to hear it. And it's truly just, it's heartwarming.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Felipe. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. If you want an honest conversation, you can get it from me. If you don't want that, then I'm not the right person, because I think entrepreneurs, to your point, Shireen, well, that's what we want to hear to educate them. They got to know, if you believe in it enough, you have to put the work in. It's not easy. It is not a straight line. There was all kinds of curves and bumps and roads along the way. But I believed in it so much, I sacrificed it all. I could have went and got a job. To your point earlier, your question, Serene, I could have got a job. It would have been easy. People offer me jobs every day. You have to believe that with the talent I possess.
Yeah.
But, I know I had a mission, and it was greater than me. And that's why I stuck with it.
Tune in next week for part 3 of Friends from Wild Places.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Bueta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.